All right, good morning. Welcome back here to Trader Minute. Great to have you aboard. Some good chats here going on. Some very interesting action in the market, kind of setting up here with some various things. We are starting to see some upside follow through in some things. Um, Not everything, but we are seeing a little bit of that come into play overall. Let me show you here. Let me show you here Qualcomm and Max. You have some good comments here. Um, Qualcomm here. Let me zoom it in. Let me zoom it in here. And Qualcomm, we had the Trend Rider bull signal. Okay, they came in kind of with the vibe signal. Uh, Qualcomm got Qualcomm got knocked down. Okay, it got knocked down. We talked about it through this time. Could we have gotten out right here? Sure. I mean, we definitely could have. Um, and then Qualcomm, what do we start seeing? We start seeing midday buying come into Qualcomm every single day. Midday buying, midday buying, midday buying. And it tries to break above 74. We get the kind of pullback on Friday, but then kind of end of the market, it kind of rallies furiously back. And Friday is where, man, I just it was one of those things. I'm looking at it, I'm staring at it. I went through every scenario here with Qualcomm on Friday as far as holding in. And I said, you know what? The second time that it's tested 74, Qualcomm's trend is bullish. It's shown signs of wanting to break out. We have historically tight Bollinger Bands. And, typically when we have historically tight Bollinger Bands, we get a major breakout. So I said, all right, let's take the chance that Qualcomm goes higher. Well, Qualcomm starts higher Monday morning and rips lower. And we saw it kind of dump into not into the close, but into the kind of second to last hour. And then in the close, we saw some buyers step in right there into the close. At that point, could we have held it at that point? Sure, we could have. Um, Overall, here, Max, and I think what you're saying is we should have gotten out right back here. Okay, and in hindsight, I think you're right. But I'll also kind of show you Boeing, was kind of the same thing. We had the same thing kind of happening at the exact same time. And overall, technically, I think with Qualcomm, the biggest thing with Qualcomm, the options themselves, and the overall the reward on them relative to the risk, both were high. And one of the things when you trade Qualcomm is generally the way the options are, it's a lot more risk than if you're trading something like Boeing, but it's also a lot more reward on a move higher here. And so that was kind of the thing. It was kind of the same decision was made with Qualcomm as was made with Boeing. They really were kind of the same exact trade, same exact decisions. One decided to keep grinding higher. The other decided, well, Apple's in a funk, so we're just going to dance around a little bit. Yeah, Deb, Qualcomm in a sideways channel. Absolutely. I mean, this is as sideways as Qualcomm has been in years. And historically, this type of sideways channel, you get a major breakout. I think today being downgraded the way it was. Now, let's go look at that downgrade. Let me show you the Qualcomm downgrade. Okay, Raymond James, who, let's face it, Raymond James, in the terms of upgrades and downgrades, isn't exactly the leader of the group. Okay, they're much, they don't have nearly the sway that even a J.P. Morgan or Goldman Sachs have, but they do have some. They downgraded Qualcomm from outperformed to market performed and removed its price target. So what? There's just not a whole lot there. They didn't really get into Qualcomm's numbers and everything else in regards to Qualcomm there. Okay. Okay, SLW. Yeah, Max, you make a good point there. You can't lose 1,200 with a single trade when it's a non-challenge trade. And the problem with that, the reality of options is that no matter how well you structure them, unless you're playing way deep in the money, the reality of of options is that at times you're going to have 60, 80, even 100% losses. Um, it will sometimes just things will happen, and there's no, and while yes we to limit the 1200, yes, absolutely, but to be able to limit that completely is almost impossible, and it's the thing that I like the least on the site, because most of the time when you're trading, and you're trading Trend Rider Vibe, and in the past, when I've traded those, I'm trading them in a fund, I'm trading them in a group. I'm not trading one or two isolated. We started trading one or two isolated back in November. Started off real well. We hit a kind of a slide with them. Not that the Vibe and Trend Rider wasn't working, but the actual, just the ones we picked weren't. I mean, we can go back and look at those. They just weren't. So we're kind of, trading one or two in a vacuum makes it a little tougher because you don't have offsetting. One of the things that you'll see coming in here, and I'm hoping sooner than later, after the market today, I'm meeting with them. They're building a function that we're going to have on the live trade seat here, where each and every Trend Rider and Vibe signal, you'll be able to see all the back tested results for 5 to 10 years. You'll be able to see what stock is triggering that day. Let's say Exxon. You'll see what the past performance of all the Vibe Trend Riders, the 5-day, 10-day, 25-day performance, as well as kind of a probability of success on that. So it's we're going to add that in, simply because we're not doing enough Vibe and Trend Rider signals to get the averages to where they should be, and so we're gonna kind of add that in as an additional tool here. For those of you that like to trade a lot more of those outside of some sort of fund. Okay. So Qualcomm downgrade today. Nice reaction. I don't want to react to it just yet. And kind of looking across the board, we're seeing stuff. Let's just take Tesoro. Already Tesoro this morning, we saw it up about 50 cents, down 50 cents, now up 26 cents. Could these things tear up and kind of push higher immediately? Sure. I do think kind of best case scenario for the bulls here today is to keep the market up about 7 to 10 points, and to see most stocks, maybe 70-80% of them, kind of in the green. But I don't think it's realistic to look and say, well, we're going to have a lot of stocks that break above yesterday's highs. Okay, I do think it's kind of telling that we see things like Starbucks, okay, and like Nike, who had these kind of Trend Rider bear signals yesterday, that we're seeing some bids come into them. I think that speaks highly to some of the oversold nature, not of the market, but of some of the individual stocks that are out there. I do like the price action on Simon Property Group. Love the price action here on KB Home. I know KB Home isn't really up right here, but overall, where KB Home is holding up, I think there's a fantastic spot here for it. So most of the strength here this morning is in the agriculture group, outside of Monsanto. Monsanto, a little bit of strength, but in the potash, I know Carl on his top three the other day had CF, and CF continues to ride very strong here. Agrium having a fantastic day after kind of opening up and pushing slightly lower. Okay, so real nice pickup in that area. A lot of times FCX will follow some of the agriculture stocks in its movement. There's a little bit of follow lag. Find FCX to be very, very interesting right here, as far as upside goes. Another thing, take a look at Deere and Caterpillar. I bring these up because these are two stocks that have strong buybacks, right? You have buybacks going on, and I mentioned to you this morning the Goldman Sachs comments on the broader market. The Goldman Sachs comments saying, "Hey, broader market, that PE ratios are elevated relative to past history. It'll be hard to get multiple expansion. So the markets are probably fairly priced here unless we start to see earnings growth." Okay. Well, here's the thing. one of the things that Goldman Sachs left out of that article, okay, and for those of you interested, let me pull it up. Let me throw it over here for you. But here's the thing they left out is we are seeing almost on a historical basis stock buybacks, where there are more stock buybacks going on now than almost any time in history. And what does that do? Well, I mean, what does the stock buyback do? Well, it allows you to take and it allows you to decrease the number of shares of stock that are out there, thereby affecting your multiple. Okay, thereby affecting your overall multiple there. All right, so you have this the all these stock buybacks, and what I'm really interested to see, someone like Caterpillar, okay, who has an incredible buyback. And I priced the options on Caterpillar here this morning. I'd love to get into Caterpillar here. I think we may just be a touch early from a confirmation standpoint. I'm worried about kind of that third leg lower, but these companies that have these strong stock buybacks, the Apples, the Caterpillars, do we see them pushing that money into play before their earnings so that their earnings actually look a little bit better as they take out shares? Okay, and that's the one thing that I am very interested to see, and I think today we're starting to see a little bit of it. You didn't see these stocks like Caterpillar. Yes, Caterpillar went down yesterday, but it didn't have a Starbucks day, right? It didn't have a just a flush on it where it was down 4 or 5%. The Caterpillars, the Deeres, these companies, the Apples, with the strong buybacks, they still held up. Yeah, they have kind of these ugly gravestone type candles, but in the face of the buybacks that they have in play, they have these buybacks to defend themselves against these real bad days in the market. And I think being a buyer of some of these stocks with these heavy buybacks ahead of earnings, like with Caterpillar, I think that makes a lot of sense here. Okay, yeah, Boeing here. Boeing, up about 40 cents here overall. Look, we were in this trade long enough to understand how it moves. We understand that it goes up initially in the morning, and about the second and third hour of trading, Boeing goes down, right? It is around this 141 support area. Does it get a little bit lower? Maybe. But this is one where I'd love to get back in. I'd love to trade Boeing again and get back into it. It just feels just a touch early still, for Boeing. By touch early, I'm talking instead of getting in here, it probably will pay us to wait until the close of the day here today. Okay. Alrighty. Well, thanks for hopping on, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.